Yo! They did my boy Tyrese so fucking dirty in this episode. I walked into this episode not expecting, like, a major character death. Like, the beginning of the episode, I see, a funeral going on, and I thought it was Beth's. But when it got towards, like, 20 minutes in, I then keyed in on most likely who the funeral was for. It was for Tyrese. And as the episode dragged on, minute after minute, it was more and more apparent Tyrese was going to die. And the way this episode, man, it drug out the death of Tyrese. And I'm thinking, like, you really, really just want to hit me in the heart right now, don't you, Walking Dead? You really do. Because Tyrese, when you see this episode, his development becomes full circle. You understand his development and what he's been through as a character. And to see how his character developed to this point in this episode, it was unbelievable. Like, you don't realize how much Tyrese has developed until you see the hallucinations going on. Like, when you see those hallucinations of everybody that's died, like the governor and all that, and Beth, and the two little sisters. Pretty much, when you see that, I was like, oh my god, when I saw it. Because the character development and the meaning behind that, like, just let it go. Like, he had two sides, like, both fighting wars going on in his mind. Like, the governor was, like, saying, oh, you should just, pay the price. You need to pay the price because you didn't know what you're getting into. And when you had it on the other side, you had it where Beth and the two little sisters, they were stating, like, you can let it go now, and all that. And I'm thinking, like, fuck, it's just, the meaning behind their words and his development and what he's went through these past couple seasons is unbelievable. I cannot believe The Walking Dead just did this on the first episode of this new mid-season premiere. Like, I did not expect to walk into an episode like this. Like, I thought I was going to walk into an episode that was about them traveling and journeying off to where they want to go next, but I went straight into this episode with a bunch of feels, because this episode, it wasn't just for Tyrese dying, but the overall atmosphere of this episode, in my opinion, was better than majority of the Walking Dead episodes I have seen for the past couple seasons, and that's pretty shocking, because the ambience when it comes to the music, when you see Noah sitting in the middle of the street and he sees, like, his entire town burnt to the ground, and you hear this ambience music as he's just sitting there crying, holding his head and all that, and you see Tyrese trying to comfort him, that right there, beautiful. Like, oh my god. Just, the company that worked on this, just AMC, all that, you're on point. You're on point with this episode. I really, really hope that the episodes continue to be like this, because this was an emotional episode that had the right amount of ambience, music, tones, and atmosphere. The way they used the camera angles and stuff like that, it was a really good episode. And it really just shows you how much work was put into this episode. I'm gonna say right now, it's gonna be hard to beat this episode. Like, you go into the mid-season premiere of The Walking Dead and see this type of episode, I highly doubt that the rest of this season can really hold a candle to what this episode really stood for. Because, I want to be honest, this episode was just, like, something you would see as a finale, when it comes to a finale of a season. And to see an episode like this as soon as we walk in on the first episode of this, like, half season, quite shocking. So, I wonder exactly what The Walking Dead has in store for us for this season, for them to give us something like this right on the first episode. So, episode overall. The main points of this episode is just getting to see Tyrese's death. Getting to see his character develop to the point to where he can pass on and have literally no regrets. Like, he's the type of character that could not move past the old ways. Like, he couldn't, be set in stone with the new ways of how people are in this new world, and pretty much eventually led to his death. And that's pretty much what happened to him in this episode. And I have to give props to the writers. The foreshadowing to Tyrese's death, oh my god. Like, it was hinted at with the entire baby scene, but to see how this was handled in this episode, when you see him finally die, and you see those, different people talk to him, all the dead people talk to him, wow. Just, wow. Like, I didn't expect to see the governor pop up in this episode. Like, I never expected him, along with his theme song, I didn't expect to see his character pop up in this episode, start talking to Tyrese, and Tyrese is like, you're dead, everything you stood for is dead. Like, oh, the way he talked to the governor, I was like, my god, Tyrese. Like, honestly, with this episode, my respect for Tyrese just jumped, like, to a high level, because in the last season, I was on the fence with Tyrese's character. Like, he was constantly trying to be the good guy. And I understood his point of view. I understood it. But he was trying to be the good guy, and he was kind of set in the old ways. And he slightly got on my nerves at some points. And technically, he did cause the death of Bob and other people pretty much from last season. And to see how he actually was pained by what he did, and how he blamed himself, and then eventually came to acceptance in the middle of his death, beautiful. Just really, really beautiful. I was really in the middle of this episode, I was hoping he would get saved. I was really hoping like he would get saved, but he was already at the point of seeing hallucinations when he was losing blood before, you know, they even found him. So, if he's already at that point, it wasn't good at all. Like, he already lost enough blood to where he was going to die. So, honestly, at the end of the day, I might have called bullshit if he would have survived, because all that blood he lost by the time they got there, he should have been dead. And it's realistic in that aspect. He died, and it was realistic. But it's sad to see a loss of a good character, especially a well-developed character like that. The development of his character in this episode, oh my god. So, that's pretty much it when it comes to this episode. So, this is my first review or first discussions video of The Walking Dead. I plan on doing more of these in the future. Depends on how all of you Chibits feel about this in the near future. I might, you know, expand this segment to other different live-action series in the future, maybe Game of Thrones top-wise. But this episode, hands down, an amazing first start of this mid-season premiere. So tell me your thoughts in the comments below. How'd you feel about this episode? How do you feel about Tyrese? Love y'all so much. Please be safe. Chibi out.